Hey everyone, it's Blair here at Time Trades. Thanks for joining me this weekend. Today is Sunday, July 16th, and this is your weekly video. All right, let's kick it off by reviewing last week's forecast. You can see the yellow line here showing a down day on Monday the 10th, and then a strong move up into our target box up here. So it followed the forecast line very, very closely. I'm going to give myself an A for this. Very good response to the forecast. Very happy with that accuracy. So the next thing I want to talk about here is updating our forecast. And before I do that, we're going to review some updates to time trades, and we're going to go over specifically some of the Wheel of 24 features. Now, this is a part of time trades I don't often use, but I think it's extremely valuable. And what you're looking at here is SPX. And if you go over here to the Wheel of 24 settings, you can see how I've got it configured. I'm showing the 24 lines and I'm showing Venus. And if you go back to chart settings, you can also see that we've got the daily mass pressure index turned on. Now, the daily mass pressure index is built using a Venus cycle. And as you may know, Venus is going into retrograde for between July 22nd, I think, and early September. So that is captured here in the Wheel of 24 line for Venus, as you can see it moving downwards into early September. And we can also see in the mass pressure index, we can see a decline that's built into the SPX here, heading down into early August. Okay, so that's a couple of interesting data points here that we can use to influence our updated forecast. We can also scroll back and take a look at what happened the last time Venus went retrograde. We can see here December 2021, right around the all-time high. And then retrograde period ended in February 2022. So just as the decline last year was kicking off, that was really initiated by the Venus retrograde period. So we can scroll back some more and see what happened before that. Before that, it was just in the recovery coming out of the COVID low. So it started in around May of 2020 and finished up around June of 2020. And we did not get much of a decline here, but the pump certainly resumed quite strongly at the end of Venus retrograde coming up into September of 2020. So Venus retrograde here did not, in the 2020 example, did not generate a decline. However, it did generate quite a bit of volatility. We go back some more, we can see some more examples. This is October 2018, and we can see we got a solid drop here heading into the end of Venus retrograde in November 2020. The recovery out of Venus retrograde did not lead to a recovery in prices, as another cycle took over and created a strong drop in price into December of 2018. So all of these are available in time trades. You can go through and check it out, do your own research, and learn a little bit more about the behavior of prices during Venus retrograde. Okay, so let's go and take a look at Apple. Again, we're building towards updating our forecast here. So if we go and turn on pivots in Apple, I like to use the non-directional probabilities. So we can see here we've got increasing probabilities of a move and a small little area of increased pivots. So that's one example in Apple. Let's take a look at the Qs. Increasing probabilities of a move, and we've got pivots, little bumps and pivots, July 21st, August 2nd, but then a big spike in August 18th. All right, so let's go and take a look at TradingView, and we can pick up on why we have this target box up here. And it's really based on this big green bullish beach ball that we've been tracking for a while now. So let's just clean this up a little bit so you can see that a little bit easier. We're going to turn off those Mars cycle fans, and we can turn off some of the time trades information here, so the screen's a little less cluttered. So there's really two big reasons for this target box over here. Number one is the end of the big bullish beach ball, which basically indicates that time spent going down is equal to time spent going up. Okay, now that occurs here on this orange line. If I zoom in here, that's July 31st. The second reason for this target box being over here is we've got a cheat code teal happening July 26th. So that's why that is where it is. Okay. Now, if we are to incorporate Venus retrograde into this, then I think that's going to end up shifting things a little bit earlier, right? So when Venus retrograde starts, and let's add this here, so we can go here and we can add in a couple of signposts. So we've got Venus retrograde starting on a weekend on July 22nd. So that's going to show up on Monday the 24th. Okay, so this is really the last week of direct motion of Venus. However, that motion is slowing as it turns into retrograde status. Okay, so Venus is already decelerating relative to Earth. Okay, it officially goes retrograde next weekend, just before FOMC, just before this cheat code teal, and just before we reach the end of the big bullish beach ball. So a number of big timing events coming up here. And for that reason, I'm going to be adjusting this target box a little bit. I'd like to shift it down and shift it to the left a little bit. So we're going to hide that old target box. And another thing I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be adding a new target box based on a new little bit of research I've been doing down here in early August. Okay, and this is really going to balance out this point over here in early July. So based on these changes, we're going to have an updated path. Okay, so we're going to add a new path that's going to go from the lower and earlier high target down to this new lower target that's sitting right on top of a magic level. And also, if I can bring up time trades, we're going to turn on Gann waves so we can see where it is relative to Gann waves. It's just on a Gann wave green here, which is related to the lunar declination cycle. All right. So that's going to be our updated forecast. I'm going to just slide this back over here. We're going to put that in the middle of the target box. We're going to put this in the middle of the target box. And that's going to be our updated forecast. So this target box down here is also showing up in some of the pivots in time trades. And it's also showing up in the mass pressure index. So if we flip back to time trades and take a look at SPX and the daily mass pressure index, we can see how that bottoms really around August 10th. Okay, so we see, if we zoom in here, we can see the lowest close of these little faint bars here, which is the mass pressure index. That's around August 10th. It could definitely go lower here into August 17th, but we're going to go with August 10th for now based on the mass pressure index. So right now we've got August 11th as the end date for that lower target. Okay. All right. So Now, one of the things I also want to share with you is an update on the Mars cycle fan. So these have been very, very accurate so far in calling the trend changes. So these are Gann fans that are not anchored to highs and lows. They are anchored to, let me just clean this up here. They are anchored to Mars cycles, so key inflection points in Mars's orbit. So we can see down here this, let me just hide this big green thing so it's a little bit clearer. If we look down here, we can see this Gann fan is anchored to a key part in Mars's orbit. It's going up. This Gann fan here is anchored to the April low before the pump started. Now, what I'm doing with these is I'm trying to identify Gann fans that would be really relevant to identify a change in trend, okay? And in order to do that, we want to look for a close below a Gann fan. Now, one of the things you can do with Gann fans is kind of a cool technique is you can anchor them in the future, right? So we've got a future point here in Mars's orbit, and we've anchored a Gann fan to that coming back in time, right? So this is matching the move up from over here. So we've got basically two Gann fans that are mirrored. We've got one over here in 2019, September 2019. And then we took that same point, a point on that 1x1 Gann fan over here in the future, which is October 2023. And we've reflected that Gann fan back in time. So you can see here that we've got this orange line here coming down. And right now, price is right on that. Let me just clear these up a little bit. Sorry, my charts get super cluttered. So this orange line is that Gann fan coming back down from the future. I would propose this as an excellent indicator of change in trend. If we get a close below this orange line, then I think that would activate the bearish move down, right? Now, it's important after such a big move up that we don't, anticipate and get short too early. I've been burned by that. Many others have been burned by that. So I'm going to be watching this Gann fan really closely as an indicator of a change in trend. And I'm going to be watching for a close below this level. All right. So that's our Mars cycle. Okay. So we've shifted our target box. We've updated our forecast. We've given criteria for when to shift into a bearish bias. Now let's go and take a quick review of Bitcoin and DXY and the Nifty. So if we go and take a look at Bitcoin here. Okay, so we're here looking at the Bitcoin chart, and in last week's video, I mentioned July 11th as a potential important date. And that was based on really this Gann fan cross here on between July 12th and 13th, okay? So we got a small probability of a pivot mentioned in last week's video on the 11th, and then we got this Gann fan cross, and we got that very nice bullish pump up to 31,470. One of the highest closes in a long time in Bitcoin. That got fully retraced, and the 1x1 up from zero, you can see it here, caught that decline. And right now, Bitcoin's at a very interesting juncture. If you ask me, it really has to respect this Gann fan here. If we get separation below, and when I say separation, I mean a high that is materially below this Gann fan. So if we get separation below this Gann fan, I think it's got the potential to retrace down to the next Gann Fan here in the 28s. Okay, so the bull case is it has to stay in contact with this 1 by 1 up from zero that started in September 2022. The bearish case wants to see this separate down below here. Now, again, Venus retrograde, of course, happens for Bitcoin as well. I'll leave it up to you to research the effect of that, but you can easily turn it on in the Wheel of 24 settings and go into Venus, and then you'll see those planetary lines appear on your daily chart in time trades. Okay, so that's definitely something to watch for. I think a general comment when it comes to all of the Wheel of 24 features is these 24 lines that are pink now are really, really important and valuable. So I would encourage you to take a look at those in your chart. They do indicate, well, they're not often super accurate, but they can be, they can indicate some very strong areas of support and resistance, like back here in January, resistance, support broke, but then after that support was regained, then this Venus planetary line here, price just went right up that channel. Okay, so I'm going to be using planetary lines a lot more. This is really inspired by a couple of guys on Twitter that use this very successfully, Solomon and DBE Trading. I'll drop a link to their Twitter feed. So yeah, this is a really cool feature of time trades and one I'm going to be using a lot more. Okay, so looking ahead on Bitcoin, we've got another Gann Fan cross here coming up on the 18th. And that also coincides with another time trades indicator called the juice. We were to turn that on, we can see we've got a juice spike here on the 18th. And again, these are indicators of alignments between the planets. These do tend to correlate with bullish moves, green candles. If you go back in time, you can see how in general they do tend to align with at least a candle on a green candle on the day. But they are very short-term indicators. So if I were to guess, I would have a bullish directional bias coming up here on the 18th for Bitcoin on this upcoming Gann Fan cross. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Let's go and take a look at DXY. Now, I think this was probably the most important thing I talked about in last week's video. Let's turn juice off here. And we can go and turn on probabilities, and I like the non-directional ones. This time last week, in last week's video, we were talking about how this dump kicked off on July 7th. And I said that that we can anticipate this move down continuing until the next pivot window on July 20th or the 27th. And what did we get? We got 1, 2, 3, 4 big red candles in the DXY, followed by a small green candle. And these pivots over here have been updated. It looks like July 28th is the next opportunity for a pivot low here. But huge move down in DXY. And this is also a great example of how to use time trades to get in early on a trend, because we were confident that this move here was going to continue down because there was no pivot until later in July. So this move still has some legs. We see, about 2 or 3 more days worth of high probabilities of a move. And then it looks like we're going to start basing to create a pivot low later in July. All right. So again, the logic from last week remains the same. as long as the DXY is weak, that's going to provide some bullish tailwinds for both crypto and stocks. But that could be coming to an end soon as well. So we need to be very cautious about this. Okay, so we're looking at the Nifty 50 now on the National Stock Exchange in India. And again, I like to focus my analysis on Gann Fan behavior here. You can see how well it tracks these Gann Fans. Right now it's respecting this 1x2 that's moving up from 0 in March, that started in March of 2022. I mentioned last week that any sort of opportunity to purchase in this margin here between these two fans would be a good one. We got some red candles, but they weren't very big. They didn't generate any bearish momentum. We got a close above the upper Gann fan here. So let's see if we can keep the bullish momentum going here and potentially move up into this next higher Gann Fan, which is a 2x1 up from 0 that started in 2017. So that would be the kind of the upper cap on any potential move. We do have a Gann Fan crossover here between the 19th and the 20th, so that's something to watch very closely. We did have a Gann Fan cross last week between the 10th and 11th and got a little green candle here out of that. And then followed that up with another Gann Fan cross between the 12th and the 13th, and basically got not much happened out of that. So yeah, there was no sort of trending bar coming out of that second cross. So between the juice spike that we already talked about and the weakening US dollar, I think there's a good argument to be made here for another pop up in the Nifty and a continuation of this close above the most recent Gann Fan. Okay, so that's it for me this week. I wish you luck trading. Please trade safe and protect your risk, manage your risk, and we will talk to you again next week. Thank you. Bye now.